Hello, Virgo. Thank you very much for tuning in to your love read. For the main part of the read, I'm using The Witch's Tarot by Ellen Dugan. For supportive oracle cards, Queen of the Moon Oracle by Stacey DeMarco. Already shuffled. Let's go ahead and get into it. Ooh. That's interesting. Discernment too. You do have good things coming. Okay. I think there's a little bit of... There might be something unresolved here at the end. So, I'm feeling like there's this energy with the Six of Cups with your partner, which seems to be more current, but this seems to be pulling you into the future a little bit. Your partner's pulling forward a lot of the past influence. There's certain things you feel need to change. And I feel like, first of all, the Six of Cups, when it comes to the Six of Cups and your connection with the Magician, kind of things need to change. There's certain things that you're looking to start implementing. Virgo usually takes their time changing things. But I feel like the reason it's time for change is you've given a lot of thought about this wasn't really going the best. We keep hitting this roadblock. We get so far and we stall out, and then we have to restart the car and get going again. So I want to change some things. I've given a lot of thought to this. This is what I want to do. I'm ready to start implementing these changes. You're not looking to change everything in 2 seconds, but you're looking to start moving things in a better direction. Your partner seems to be absorbing this with the Six of Cups, and I feel like they're saying no. I literally feel like they're saying no. When I get the High Priest on their side, I'm also getting the Victory card on their side, which is telling me, it feels like, because the High Priest can do this, they can just say no. The High Priestess can too. But it's just I feel like when I'm seeing this, I'm seeing no. No. I'm going to set this. I've decided this will not happen. And this is why, and I'm going to take this choice at this point, and I'm going to lock this in as a no. They do have the Six of Wands. They get the victory on this. Now, I'm getting the discernment between the two of you. They give you a good reason why. They tell you why, and they talk it out with you. The final answer is no, and I'm getting, you don't like this. Ten of Swords is telling me you're very unhappy or devastated over this because they're basically shutting you down. I'm also getting the Three of Swords spiritually. This, they're not kidding. They're not giving me any two ways about it. I do see that you do kind of argue your way into this a little bit. You try to change things. But I'm getting, for every ounce of pushback you try to give, your partner just keeps moving in the same direction. I'm getting the Eight of Wands in their spiritual sense, not as speed, but as moving forward in the way that they've determined will happen. The challenge card here, you both have interesting challenge cards. They have the Page of Pentacles. You have the Eight of Pentacles. Yep, Eight of Pentacles. And it's almost still considering changes in the way forward. I feel like this has moved on. Once your partner makes their decision, I feel like this has moved on. See, I feel like this, when I'm seeing the Pentacle, even though it's the Page for your partner as the challenge card, kind of they're locking into something and they're trying to consider change, but they're not really doing it. And I feel like considering change would be a good idea for them. I just don't see it really happening, and I feel like that's why it's the challenge card. It would behoove them to at least consider it, but I don't feel them considering it. This is you still analyzing and still trying to find a way to make the changes you want happen after the fact, and because I feel like I don't feel like that's really happening either, and I feel like that might just draw you down and make you feel worse. Whatever this situation is, I literally feel like you're backing down. It's how it's coming through. You've got the Two of Cups and you've got the focus. You're kind of well, my partner's already still moving forward. They said no and they explained why. We got to keep going. I can't just, it's almost like you're driving down the street and you're well, I can't just stop and get out of the car and be go on without me. I'm in the car. I'm the passenger. It's you're in the passenger seat in the car and your partner's driving. You're well, I can't just cut the car in half and go my way. I'm in the passenger seat. I just kind of I'm just here. And you've got the Two of Cups, which means you want to stay with your partner. And at this point, it's just kind of like you just either have to go your own way or stick with them, and you're going to stick with them. I'm also getting the Ace of Cups here with the Void. Kind of like love is winning. Love is winning. Like, you love them. They're saying this is how they're going to do it. They're not willing to bend on that. You're feeling kind of taken along for the ride. Again, like a passenger in a car. You just can't seem to move on from it. I know that's not the most empowering, but that's what I'm getting here. Now, what would help them to make this better is they really should talk this out with you some more. I'm feeling like this different options may be applicable. Whatever plan you brought forward, I don't feel like they're going to go for that. For whatever reason, it's like they've already said no, they're not looking forward to it. They don't want to do it, they're not even into it. They're not even considering it. But what I am getting is if you keep the conversation open and try to get them to bring forth other possibilities and keep bringing forth, well, like, this isn't going right. I don't think this is working right for this reason. I think we should change something. And I understand you didn't like my ideas for changing what needed to be changed, the way I thought it should be changed. But what other ideas do we have? What are you thinking? Like, do you not agree that this is not the outcome that we really want? This is not really working to the best it could? Because I feel like that's the best way to get this going. Like, don't you realize that this is not going the best? I understand you don't agree with my plan to change it, but at first you at least agree that this could go better. And I feel like you could get them talking, and abundance could come through more communication. It's going to be a bit of communication, a bit of talking. They're going to have to come forward with ideas where like almost like, well, I don't really want to go down that road, and I really don't want to go like up that way where it's colder. I don't want to go to the north. And I feel like what you're saying is like, yeah, but the farther south we go, the more bugs there are, the bigger the bugs are, and I don't like that. And don't you agree? You don't like that either? And I feel like they're kind of like, well, yeah, I guess you're right. I don't really like the bugs, but I don't really like the cold either. And you're like, well, what other options do we have? Like, if we don't go to somewhere a little colder, where do we go? And they're kind of like, well, I guess, there are some places like out in Arizona or something where there's not as many flies and things like that. There's other types of bugs, but not the type we're really bothered by. And I feel like it's almost like one of those conversations, and it's kind of like, well, and you're kind of like, well, we can find a place that's like a happy medium. Sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's not, I feel like you have to keep negotiating with your partner, and if they are open to this, you can find something better than what you were going to originally end up with. It's going to take a bit of negotiating continually going forward. Just bringing it up and saying, the end goal, we're both in agreeing, like, again, we don't like bugs, right? Like, no, I don't like bugs. You don't like big bugs? No, I don't like big bugs. Okay, so I know you don't want to go far north, but maybe, somewhere in a happy medium where there's less bugs, smaller bugs, at least, something like that, where we don't have to deal with them as much. Like, I feel like that's at one of those conversations. That's the analogy I'm getting. Like, you have to constantly go through it. There's a better chance for things to improve still, but your original idea, I feel, is like, it's being kiboshed. And that's where that's ending. Okay. All right. It is what it is. It's one of those things where it's like you want a really good, happy ending, but you're like, well, this is what's coming through, and it's hitting for the people it needs to hit for. It's funny because sometimes I look at the other readers online, and some of them have some really fun, happy readings, and I'm like, unless it comes out that way, I don't know. It's got to come out the way it's got to come out. That's just how I read. All right, let's do Virgo singles. Virgo singles. Virgo singles. Let's do a little bit of shuffling here. I don't know if I'm going to leave those. I'm going to shuffle them. I was going to leave them at first, but I didn't feel like that was really going to work. Realization. So realizing what's really in front of you. That seems to be, this is single Virgo. Somebody's trying to make things go fast. I'm getting that right off the bat. the past of this, like, all right, the past and the current energy are kind of bleeding into each other because I feel like the past is heavily affecting what's going on right now. Somebody's trying to push forward really quick with that Chariot card. I feel like you're trying to do this, but you're trying to slow it up, but you don't want to like shoot yourself in the foot. I do feel like you're going at a faster rate than you really want to. I feel like the past is why, though. Kind of like in the past, you have slowed things down and kind of missed out, is what you felt. Kind of like you slowed things down, but you slowed it down so much that the other person kind of walked away. And it's kind of like, you know what, if I slow it down too much, I'm going to end up with nothing. I really don't want to go any faster, but I don't want to end up in the lurch either. You're doing your best to try to hold this together, though. You're doing your best with is it the 7 or the 7 of Wands and is it the 4 of Swords? 4 of Swords. The 2 of these cards, the 4 is at the top of the reading, the 7 is at the bottom. I feel like you're trying your best to like be okay with this, to try to move forward. You're trying to push your limits. I feel like you're really trying to push your limits. But you're not really sure if you can do this. You're like, I don't know, this is going too fast for me. I'm not really comfortable. The Moon card is where you're standing like, I don't know how long I can do this because this is too much for me. I don't really like how fast this is going. Ironically, for every bit you're pushing forward and trying to push your boundaries, the person you're dealing with feels like things are going way too slow. They feel like they're not making any headway with you. They feel like things aren't moving forward at all with the 4 of Pentacles. They feel like things are really slow and almost non-existent. Now, as things keep going forward, I feel like literally, again, you got the Fool card in your thoughts. You're trying to relax. You're trying to open your boundaries a bit. You're trying to be a little bit more free. But you do have the Queen of Pentacles here. And don't get caught up in the gender, but this is basically somebody who knows how they feel. You're only willing to go so far. Like, you're not going to go crazy. Like, you're not going to get in a car and go 100 miles an hour if that's not your thing. You're like, well, I usually go 30, but, you know, maybe I'll do 40, and I'll feel a little uncomfortable with that. I'll do 40. Not really comfortable with it, but I'll do it. Meanwhile, they want to go 100, and you're like, well, that's completely ludicrous. I'm not going to go 100 miles an hour. I'll go up to 40. I think 30 is, well, good enough, but I'll do 40. I'd rather go 30, but I'll go 40. And they're like, but like for them, they want to go 100, and they feel like you're not moving at all. I'm getting like you're keeping it within confinement of what you're willing to do. You are going faster than normal for you, but for them, they don't feel like it's going fast at all. Now, I'm seeing this abundance here. The situation keeps going forward, but what happens next is what I feel like I think it's going to sink the ship. I'm trying not to say it, but I really feel like what happens next is going to sink the ship, and I feel like you might be the one pulling out. Because I feel like this other person gets to the point where they're kind of like, you know what, this isn't going very fast. This isn't my speed. I don't really like how this is feeling. And they're giving pressure, like, if you want to keep going with me, we need to get up to 100 miles an hour. And I feel like, think about that. Like, if you're used to going 30, you've pushed yourself to 40. You're like, I don't really feel comfortable with this, but I'll do 40. I'll do it. And they're like, listen, we got to go 100 or this isn't going to work. I feel like that's literally, you got the Fear card there right next to the 5 of Swords. The 5 of Swords is kind of like, oh, I can't live like that. I can't. No, I don't think so. I feel like this might be literally where you might bow out. Might kind of like, you know what, I really like you. I really like being around you, but I can't. I'm not going to do 100. I'm not going to do it. And if that's how it is, where you can't keep doing this unless I go 100, then I think we're done. And I feel like that's how this is going to end. Basically, they try to push you even farther than you're comfortable with, and you're like, no. If it's like that, then this isn't going to work. And I feel like literally you're like, I'm going to have to pass on this. That's how I feel this is going to go, because they push your limits way too far. You're just like, no, that's not going to work for me. And I think that's it. All right. I'm going to shut this down here. I hope that helps. Thank you for watching. If you'd like a direct reading from me, shoot me an email, jamesforastral@gmail.com. That's James, the number 4, astral@gmail.com. Thank you.